light shall bring victory.
For Doomhammer.
Against Priest, we do want high pressure plays, and N'Zoth is like a really good win condition, but I think we need to consistently pressure throughout the game, so I don't believe we can keep N'Zoth. Jade into Earth Elemental is a pretty good curve. We even picked up another Jade card. If we can get down to cheap Sea Giant, it's really good in this matchup too. I'm tempted to coin out Jade Spirit here, but if he doesn't play something for me to Lightning next turn, then my turn's going to be kind of dead, and I think it's fairly likely he won't play something worth casting Jade Lightning on, as he didn't. And also, I think because the curve of my deck is pretty high on average, the coin is pretty valuable for me. I could even try to save the coin for like a turn 6 Earth Ellie coin Ancestral Spirit, but I'm not sure how good that really is. Just play a minion so I can play Sea Giant. No, don't kill a minion, that makes it harder to play Sea Giant. Could just play another Jade Spirit here, and then we can go for that Earth Elemental play next turn. Priest doesn't have a 1-card answer to Earth Ellie Ancestral Spirit, right? They can do like Silence Death, but that kind of breaks even. Although they do gain a mana advantage there. But they don't play like a Polymorph effect, Kazakus I guess. Or we can also just play Earth Elemental here and hope he doesn't have the death. You don't keep death against Shaman. I think I really want to cast Ancestral Spirit on this Earth Elemental. Alright, that's fine. We did kind of play into that on curve, but we have a pretty strong follow-up. Oh, he's Big Priest. Interesting. Oh my god, that's sick. I'm actually not entirely sure how this interacts with Ancestral Spirit. 3/3 copy of that minion, so it should be an Earth Elemental, right?
Tremble before Taldaram.
I think when this dies I get a 7/8, right? Sick. Okay, that's a Lich King. We're not overloaded here, so we can just double Jade Lightning that. Our Jade counter is at 3, I believe? I mean, yeah, that's just super good, right? Kills the Lich King very cleanly. It puts up 2 things that don't die to Anduin, which is his best answer to double Earth Elemental. And even if he does play Anduin, then we can just follow up with another Earth Elemental. Dragon Fire Potion on its own isn't good enough. Wow. That's actually pretty rough. But let's see if he has the answer to another Earth Elemental. I think we play enough big stuff in our deck that we can just beat all the big stuff in his deck. Assuming we like draw things at relatively reasonable times. Bone Mare is nice and big. This turn I think we just make a bunch of small things and hope that this Death Rattle doesn't kill this guy. We could even waste another Maelstrom Portal here. But it goes from, what, a 20% down to, like, a 17%. I don't think that's really worth casting the Maelstrom Portal. Well, we can just equip Jade Claws. That's a 5/5, though. I like the 5/5. I think it's better to just go in here and hope he doesn't hit the 20%. Okay, he killed my worst minion, probably. Maybe this was worse at this point in the game. We've seen double Dragon Fire Potion. Let's make a 5/5. Not sure that I want to hit with the weapon yet, though. So, Statue and Lich King. I actually took Lich King. Guess I can't argue with it. Okay, Greater Healing Potion. I was just starting to look for lethals, but there's definitely no way we have lethal when he's at 30. He holy smited my healing totem. Okay, that's fine. Not a big deal at all. Volcano, probably don't want to cast that now, but it will be nice in the future. So we can like Maelstrom Portal plus Earth Ellie into this. We can also Bone Mare this guy up to a 9/9 and trade in. This guy will go down to a 9/1, but I'm not sure that he really has a great way to deal with a 9/1. Do we play around the third copy of Death and Decay? Let's just go Maelstrom Portal Sea Giant here. I guess we do this. Healing Totem heals this guy up, which is nice. We have plenty of health to work with, and the weapon doesn't really do a whole lot in this matchup, so we should use it when we get the chance. Thanks to the Healing Totem, we don't get wrecked by the third copy of Death and Decay. Okay, Yashiraj. Now is when things start getting real. But he's played 2 copies of Eternal Servitude. So, once we kill this Yashiraj, it's just actually dead. We actually don't have great trades here, even with the Bone Mare. I'm a little bit hesitant to take this 8 damage. Because I think he has one Lich King card. I guess there's not one that just like straight does 8 damage. But some of these lists play like Velen and Malagos. So I could just be dead to Velen Mind Blast here. Maybe it was unnecessarily risky to put myself in range of that. I mean, all I did was save a Malkazar Zimp on board. I probably shouldn't have taken the damage there. Yeah, I think that was definitely wrong. There's no way a 1/3 is worth more than that. So we've seen Lich King, Yashiraj, and an Obsidian statue. We really haven't seen that many of his threats. So we still have a lot to deal with, but we still have both copies of Volcano and a Hex. Plus we still have, like, N'Zoth and 2 Giants. Okay, we did pick up Jinyu. I definitely want to Jinyu myself here because I regret putting myself in range of Velen Mind Blast. So I could also play Snow Fury Giant, but the problem is if he plays Anduin, he kills my 5/5 and an 8/8, and I'm not sure if I want to give him value for that. But we also need to make sure that we're set up to actually beat whatever he plays. If I just go Jinyu Hero Power, we're going to have 10 power on board, which is not good enough to deal with a Ysera. Alright, I guess I'm going to play the 8/8 here. It's better against Ysera. It's better against a potential Malagos. I'm not really sure what else it could be better against, but it's obviously worse against Anduin. He did have the Ysera, so I'm happy I went for that. Silence the Taunt Totem. And Potion of Madness the 1/3. I guess that does mean that I have to use the Bone Mare to trade into Ysera. Wait, is he just like almost dead? I'm 2 off lethal here. He still has that Lich King card, huh? It could be Doom Pact, he wouldn't have played that. I think in Big Priest you probably don't play Army of the Dead. I think I can probably rule out Death Coil at this point. Death and Decay. It could be the Shell thing. And he probably would have cast Death Grip, so I'm really only worried about the weapon at this point. So if it's like weapon plus Awakens, or Nightmare, I would be dead here. So we do want to kill Ysera, so we're not dead to Ysera card plus Frostmourne. Because I think Frostmourne is probably like one of the more likely Lich King cards he's still holding. I think he still has a Lich King card. He's played like 4 Lich Kings this game. I'm not sure how many of the Death Knight cards I've seen. That Anduin is problematic. We need to draw something impactful here. Shadowherd Pain, it's not that big a deal. Sea Giant, that's big enough for me. Oh, I have all my totems. Unlucky. Okay, well, we got an 8/8. That's good. Unfortunately, now that he has Anduin in play, we probably don't beat Frostmourne. So we're just hoping it's one of the bad Death Knight cards. The board clear or the Army of the Dead thing. Dream, sure. Dream is one of the better Dream cards for me. Oh, he's going for it. Cool, free from Amber, Shadow Word Death, and Shadow Visions, all great hits. I haven't lost any Death Rattles for N'Zoth, which is definitely a problem. That's the second Obsidian statue. I've seen Lich King, I've seen Ysera, I've seen Yashiraj. He might just not have any more big guys left. So it's possible that if I play Volcano, he just can't kill me, at least not with dudes. Let's go for the Volcano. He still has Barnes, but he just might not have a pull off of it. I think he still has a Shadow Essence. I'm pretty sure he still has the Death Knight card. We might just get burned out by Anduin though, unfortunately. Galaka Crawler's really bad. And the Volcano overloaded us too much to play either of our dudes. We're out of heals. We only play the one copy of Jinyu. Only one spell left in his deck. Okay, so the other one should be Barnes. Oh, we're just gonna die to Anduin. Fuck.
Almost out of cards.
There's no way that none of these cards are castable here, so I'm just dead to the hero power. And even if I'm not dead to the hero power, I can't kill him next turn. Wow, that's a bummer.
Tonight, a tale
We came really close to getting there. We killed all of his threats. I think I would have won this game if I didn't use my weapon on that second Lich King, if I just traded in the Malchezaar's Imp. That sucks.
Thrall versus Gul'dan.
Your soul shall be mine for Doomhammer.
Keep the Primal Fin Totem. Actually, maybe I should have kept the Jade Lightning. Well, this hand is way better than Jade Lightning. Assuming he's Zoo.
Why do you call
Okay, that doesn't really tell me whether or not he's Zoo.
Side effects.
Play Mistress into Claws into Primal Fin Totem.
Why do you call
Okay, I think that tells me that he's Zoo. Pretty sure a Control Warlock would tap there. Primal Fin Totem kind of sucks here, but we probably play it.
elements guide?
How long can this go on? How long can this go on?
All of my coin plays look pretty bad here, so we'll go for Claws. And I guess we trade off the Murloc, just in case he's playing Hungry Crab. Do we make this trade? Probably doesn't really matter all that much. I mean, if he's like trading in here and then here, that's not really that big a deal. I think we just pass.
Unleash me.
I guess trading off the 1/1 to play around Dreadlord on curve was a thing. Maybe a mistake out of me. Well, let's play this thing here. He's pretty hard to play at any other time in the game.
Truth is found in death.
Yikes. See, now the 7/7 just interferes with my Volcano, which is annoying. I think we clear with Volcano here. Right, this is 8, 14, 15. We have to kill this thing, but that's fine. Kind of a bummer to have to kill my own 7/7, but he played a lot of good stuff that turn. Wow, that was 2 really good cards he just discarded. So we're definitely making a totem here. We have 8 mana to work with next turn. So if we hold the thing from below, we could in theory go thing from below Corpse Raiser next turn. I think I'm just gonna play it safe. Plan on Volcanoing next turn if things get too out of hand. Although we were only dead to second Doomguard. Oh man. So we can clear with the Volcano here. I mean, yeah, we have to, right? Play the 2/3 instead of the hero power because we probably need the stats. We've got him into top deck mode, but he's got that annoying hero power. He can't play Blood River Gul'dan this turn, but past this turn it's going to be a serious threat. We only have 7 mana, so no Corpse Raiser thing from below. But we can go thing from below plus Ancestral Spirit, which makes it pretty likely that we have a thing from below next turn, which we can then Corpse Raiser. So just don't Gul'dan me. I think Gul'dan is the only card in his deck that's important. Like, other things like Bone Mare keep him alive long enough for Gul'dan. But it doesn't really matter what the other 12 cards are as long as he doesn't draw Gul'dan this game. Doomguard? Oh man. That's pretty rough actually. He was able to kill both of my things from below. We could go Sea Giant Corpse Raiser here. I think playing Maelstrom Portal to kill Doomguard is better though, so we'll go for that. See if we can hit spell damage totem. Nope.
So many possibilities.
You are not the boss of me.
Okay. No Gul'dan, feels good. I guess if we don't draw well, we can just lose to card advantage, which is kind of what's happening right now. Soulfired my Hungry Crab. Jade Lightning's a really good draw. Corpse Raiser has to be better than Hero Power, right? He's played both Doomguards and both Soulfires, I think. Bone Mare? Not Bone Mare. Okay, he has to trade here or he dies. It's a pretty good Prince draw. We could actually copy our Taunt Totem here. Does that let us go face with Sea Giant? Whatever we copy, we're just dead to Gul'dan. We copy Sea Giant, we're dead to Bone Mare. We copy the Taunt, we are still dead to Bone Mare, actually. I think we just need to try to kill him before he draws Gul'dan. The only way we don't die to Bone Mare this turn is trading into one of his dudes with Sea Giant, and that doesn't set up lethal, so I don't like that. Oh, we got there. That was scary. 3 mana 3/3 taunt, OP. I built this deck to defeat the Tempo Rogue, Jade Druid, and Highlander Priest meta. focusing on the deck tracker instead of the actual in-game list. We had the Galaka crawlers and like early Jade stuff and board clears to beat Tempo Rogue, and then we were going to beat Highlander Priest and Jade Druid with Earth Elementals and bigger Jade stuff and the N'Zoth package and some Giants. And I regret to inform you that we did not actually break the meta, but I think there might actually be something here. One of the big issues I noticed with this deck was the lack of card draw. Shaman has some pretty good card draw with 2 Farsights, which would be pretty good in this deck because if they make your big dudes or Ancestral Spirits cheaper, it's easier to combo them. And of course, you're also missing out on Mana Tide Totem, which is one of the best card draw cards in the game. And neutral card draw isn't like super strong, so we were feeling the lack of card draw. And there's also the fact that our N'Zoth package only has 2 natural targets in the deck with White Eyes and Aya. You can get more with like Ancestral Spirits and Prince Taldaram, but you do have to actually draw White Eyes or Aya in the first place. And 1 in 3 games, you're going to draw N'Zoth before either of those. And the issue of the small N'Zoth package is kind of exacerbated by the lack of card draw in this list. And then the other big problem I felt was that there was just a little bit too much going on in this list. We had a N'Zoth package, there's a bunch of Jade stuff, and we're also playing Giants. And on top of that we have clunky cards like Corpse Raiser and Ancestral Spirit, which you need to draw at the right time. So I ended up splitting my original list into like 2 separate versions. In the second version of the deck I dropped the Jade package. The Jade package is I think 7 cards, so that opens up a lot of space in the deck. Aya was directly replaced by Karen to maintain our N'Zoth package, but we also added an Infested Tauren for a slightly bigger N'Zoth package. I added Barnes to this list because we do have 1 more Death Rattle, and if you happen to hit like a Giant with Barnes, then you can throw Ancestral Spirit on it, and when it dies you get an 8/8, so I thought that was a neat little synergy. I also added a little bit more Overload to this version, because in the previous version I felt like the Snow Fury Giant was often a little bit difficult to play. There was a decent amount of Overload in the list initially, but the way it worked was you kinda had to play like an Earth Elemental and a Volcano before you could play Snow Fury Giant, and then in that case the Snow Fury Giant wasn't really pressuring like I hoped it would, because you're playing it so late in the game. So now we have a Lightning Bolt replacing one of the Jade Claws, and a Flame Wreathed Faceless replacing the other one I guess for just a little bit more overload in the deck. And the Flame Wreathed Faceless itself is a very good card in this deck, probably something I should have been considering from the beginning, because it's a 4 mana 7/7, and when you revive it with Ancestral Spirit, it's another 7/7. But it is kind of clunky with the number of 4-drops you want to be playing in this deck. So we didn't increase the amount of overload in the deck by a ton, but another innovation in this list is Bright-Eyed Scout. And Bright-Eyed Scout does 2 things in this list. One, it's just card draw, which as I said the deck is lacking, and like half of the deck already costs more than 5 mana anyway. But also, if Bright-Eyed Scout happens to hit one of the Giants, it works similarly to Naga Sea Witch in Wild. So if you draw into Sea Giant with Bright-Eyed Scout, its cost is set to 5, and then from that 5, for every minion on the board it gets discounted. So if you happen to Bright-Eyed Scout into a Giant, that Giant is often going to cost, like 0, 1, 2 mana. I played maybe like 15 games with this version of the deck and didn't draw a Giant once with Bright-Eyed Scout. But that synergy is there. And if you draw into like Karen or White Eyes, it's still pretty solid. Bright-Eyed Scout also has a little bit of synergy with Thing from Below. If you happen to hit Thing from Below, it costs 1 less. So it costs 0 at 5 totems instead of 6. And Thing from Below is probably like the most significant change that I made to the later versions of the list. I initially thought that since I couldn't play Mana Tide Totem and I didn't really want any of the other actual card totems in my deck, that Thing from Below would probably be a little bit too difficult to play. But it turns out Thing from Below is just too good with Corpse Raiser and Ancestral Spirit to not play. You can, in theory, go 5 mana for Thing from Below, Ancestral Spirit plus Prince Taldaram, which is extremely strong. So with this non-Jade version of the deck, I actually ended up going 9 and 6, I believe, which, 9 and 6, pretty respectable. And then the third version of the deck that I tried, we went back to the Jades because, man, Jade Golem cards are good. And I think this version ended up going 7 and 6. So I ended up cutting the Snow Fury Giant because I think it's just too clunky. You can make it cheap, but you have to wait until like way too late in the game to make it cheap. We do maintain our 2 copies of Thing from Below in this list because I just basically decided Thing from Below is too good to not play. And to go with the Thing from Below, I'm also trying out Primal Fin Totem. Primal Fin Totem is obviously a totem, which supports the Thing from Below. It's a board flooding card, which kinda supports the Sea Giant, and I figured it's a nice on-curve thing to copy with Prince Taldaram. Not super exciting, but it's a decent copy. Primal Fin Totem, I'm not in love with it in this list. Even though it has like 3 pretty decent synergies, I don't really feel like any of them are strong enough. And a lot of the reason this card is so good is because of Flame Tongue Totem, which is a card we're not playing. Something I did consider was cutting this for Flame Tongue Totem, because even though we probably don't have a ton of stuff on board, we still are hero powering. We still do have like little Jade shitters around sometimes. And Flame Tongue Totem is just inherently a very strong card. So maybe that's the Thing from Below synergy we want instead of Primal Fin Totem. Wasn't really impressed with this card. I think the big takeaway from this version of the deck, though, is Snow Fury Giant is a little bit too clunky, and Jade Golem cards are pretty damn good. So overall, I had a 44% win rate with the deck, but that's dragged down a lot by my first version, which I don't think was particularly good. The Bright-Eyed Scout version and this version of Jade with no Snow Fury Giants both went slightly positive. And I think there is probably still room to refine both lists. So I'll talk a little bit about these specific matchups. But the thing about the current state of Hearthstone is it's really hard to get an understanding for matchups over a small sample size, because so many games are decided almost entirely by card draw RNG. Like, you can play 10 games in a row against Highlander Priest and still have no clue how the overall matchup goes, because if they just draw Raza and Ando in every game, they beat like every deck. So even if you might be favored over 100 games, you could still just easily lose 10 in a row. And similar thing for Tempo Rogue, like if they draw Keleseth, no patches, they're going to win every game. If they draw patches, no Keleseth, they're going to lose every game. So given that I didn't play a ton of games of every matchup, take this with a grain of salt, I guess. Now Jade Druid, as much as I hate the deck, I can say that it's probably the least draw dependent deck of the top meta decks, and the only one I feel like I really have a good understanding of the matchup for. The goal was to pressure Jade Druid with Giants and Jade Golem stuff and N'Zoth, but the problem is, by the time you actually get to N'Zoth, they're already on 8/8 Jades. By the time you play Sea Giant, they're already at like 4/4s and 5/5s. Basically, it's hard to just pressure them with this deck's big stuff, because they also have big stuff that they play even faster. I think a second copy of Flame Wreath Faceless would go a long way in that matchup. Also, something to note is that no matter how many times I get Mind Control teched, I still play into it every game. And if they land a good Mind Control tech against you in this deck, if you have like a Totem, a Jade Spirit, and a 2/2 Jade Golem, but they just happen to Mind Control tech your Earth Elemental, you basically just lose the game. So I think someone who's more competent at playing around Mind Control tech than I am would probably have a better chance in the matchup, because I got wrecked by that card a lot. But I still feel you're pretty unfavored. A lot of games I feel like you just have to disrespect the Mind Control tech because you have to actually get stuff on the board to kill them, because you're definitely not winning a super late game. But basically, in general, you have to try really hard to pressure the Jade Druid, and then they play like Spreading Plague to slow you down until they can play big Jades, or they play Mind Control tech and steal your biggest thing and it feels really bad. I think I probably wasn't playing optimally in that matchup though. Highlander Priest I also lost to more than I beat, but it really felt like I got Kazakus, Raza, and Anduin in the first 8 turns way more than I should have on average. So is that actually unfavored? Kinda hard to say. In that matchup, you do have to be careful of their silence, shutting down your Ancestral Spirit. You have to be careful about playing too many big things into their Shadow Reaper Anduin turn. But you do also have to have like multiple big things so you don't just die to Anduin killing you. I don't really have much to say about the Highlander Priest matchup. I feel like I got high rolled pretty hard. It's probably a lot closer to even than the Jade Druid matchup. Now Tempo Rogue, we actually were beating Tempo Rogues. 5-2 against Tempo Rogue, hell yeah, let's go. A lot of that is probably because there's 2 Galactic Crawlers in the deck, but early Jade stuff is also pretty good in the matchup. You do have to worry about your Earth Elementals getting Vile Spine Slayered, but if you can use your removal efficiently to kill their decently sized boards, if you can get down a big dude that goes unanswered, you can actually win the matchup pretty reliably. But again, this is only a sample size of like 7 games, and I don't think too many of those were Keleseth Shadow Step games, so it's hard to say. I was also beating Zoo with this deck, which doesn't seem right, but I went 4-1. Again, I don't think too many of those were Keleseth games, so how much stock do we really put in that? Not sure. But Volcano is very good against Zoo. They don't have great ways to deal with Earth Elemental and rezzing your Earth Elemental. The early Jade stuff is pretty good. The matchup didn't feel too bad. And there weren't really any other matchups that I played against enough to have a strong opinion on. I'm pretty convinced that this deck loses to Jade Druid, and the other ones are kind of up in the air. This was the final version that I played. I think there is still some room to improve upon this. If I was going to play it some more, I would cut Primal Fin Totems and try out Flame Tongue Totems. If you're queuing into a lot of Priest and Druid, you probably want to try to work another Flame Wreath Faceless in here. Maybe you even have to cut the Corpse Raiser for it, as much as Corpse Raiser is pretty dope. But then at this point, you've cut your Snow Fury Giants, you cut the Corpse Raiser. This is barely even a Knights of the Frozen Throne deck, so that's no fun. I guess I should also talk about the Prince a little bit. I played something like 50 games with this deck, and I swear I drew this card like 5 times. But it was pretty solid every time I drew it. Is it worth giving up Manatide Totem and Lightning Storm? And maybe even like Farsight or Stonehill Defender? It's a little hard to say, but when you land this on an Ancestral Spirited minion, it's pretty damn strong. So is Prince Taldaram worth it in this list? That's up in the air. But I do think some form of N'Zoth Shaman, or at least a Control Shaman. The N'Zoth really didn't do a whole lot, I can admit. But some form of Control Shaman is probably at least somewhat viable.